Retirement, like any other phase in life, can come with its own challenges. That's why you want to surround yourself with the right people and also put a plan in place. I mean, most things need a plan. You think about how much time we spend planning for summer vacations. Probably should take a little time to plan what's going to be maybe 20, 30, 40 years of retirement.
Yeah.
That's me.
On average, 40 hours a year spent planning vacations.
And how much time do we spend on average?
Less than 2 on your lifetime finances.
Sad. Why? Is it just because we think of money as stressful and it's all very foreign to us?
Well, what's more exciting to talk about? The mutual funds in your 401k or Disney World?
Well, that's
Cancun?
why. But it's
a more immediate gratification, right? Like my 401k, that's a someday thing, but Cancun's July, Puerto Rico's in June, right? So like you start thinking that way. It's like, again, let's pick up the hotel, let's get our flights, let's do all that stuff.
That's what I'm doing.
Balance our portfolio.
This is the difference between me and people that other people's perspective on retirement. I want vacations in retirement. I want to get a convertible and take road trips with my husband, and I want to go to Europe. FYI, Kyle, hope you're listening. We got money to save, and
you guys are going to need a convertible with a lot of legroom in the front.
I know.
You're both so tall.
My husband's 6'3", I'm 6 feet.
Yeah.
We are not a slight pair of people.
No.
This is Michigan's retirement coach, certified financial planner, Mike Douglas, who is here to help you when it comes to figuring out the curveballs that can be thrown your way, the understanding of what you need to know and plan for in retirement. You can find us anytime, michigansretirementcoach.com, or click on the links we got posted in the show notes. If you can find Mike not hanging out swagger, cool guy style backstage with the rock stars that is.
What's he saying, Anchorman? I'm kind of a big deal.
Big deal.
Apartments filled with many leather-bound books.
Mm-hmm.
Smells of rich mahogany.
Scotch.
Yeah.
Is that what he says?
Kind of a big deal around here.
Goo Goo Dolls, Grammy nominated. They've sold over 15 million records. They have 4 number 1 songs, including Name, Black Balloon. Of course, we all know the song Iris. That was the biggest song of their career that Johnny Resnick, the lead singer, he wrote for the City of Angels movie soundtrack. 30 years later, they're still making music. They're still on tour. It was a charity event that you were at, wasn't it, where you met them and hung out with them?
Yeah. Christian Yelich from the Milwaukee Brewers was throwing a charity event. Mm-hmm. And so we were there. It was a big concert. We had the Goo Goo Dolls come in and a bunch of stuff. So we were there, and we had the ability to sit down with the Goo Goo Dolls in advance. And actually, we got to meet Christian, too. But we went through and able to talk through some stuff, did some interviews for the podcast, and just got to know him a little bit and ask him some questions you don't get to ask people on a regular day-to-day basis. So that was pretty cool.
Right. Because the thing about somebody that's been doing what they've been doing at the level that they've been doing at the Goo Goo Dolls, they have perspective. They have real-life experiences. So when chatting with Johnny Resnick, you have the chance to ask him some questions. And one of the questions we were talking about is the idea of the challenges that they have faced along the way and navigating that space. Here's Johnny Resnick.
The music business is not for the faint of heart. You have to spend a lot of time separating what's real from what's complete BS. That's annoying and time consuming. And sort of navigating the waters that can be a little bit treacherous because there's always somebody trying to pick your pocket, but then trying to create something that you feel is going to leave something of value behind, and going out and really doing shows and trying to serve that audience as best you can. That's the fun part.
Sounds like Johnny's had some people after him. He's had some.
Chase your hopes and dreams, kids. It's going to be great.
Watch out for the big pockets.
I'm thinking about getting into music, Johnny. What do you think? Well, people are going to steal from you, and they're going to lie to you and rob from you. But love the audience.
But love the audience because they're the ones buying the tickets. Still buying the tickets.
Moving to Nashville tomorrow. Right. That was crazy.
He's from Buffalo. He doesn't live in Nashville.
No. He should be pretty stoked he got to travel the world instead of living in Buffalo, is what he should have been doing.
There's that. Johnny's got some snark about him. It sounds to me like Johnny's had some tough encounters. He's seen some things.
He's lived a couple lives.
For our retirement planning and the idea of navigating spaces, there is a lot of unknown that goes into our retirement. I mean, we go into retirement for the most part. Hopefully, you're only going to do it once. You've never done it before, and you're only going to do it the one time. Goals. And with it, all of the things that come along, because there are challenges that come your way. You just think about your health and your spouse and knowing that one of you is going to outlive the other. And you do have to have a plan in place to go through this next phase of your life, your financial life, your actual life, your physical life. So how do you help people do that? Plan for the challenges, the curveballs, and put it all down in a plan that works for them.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is we get this thought of retirement planning as just I retire and now I can just relax and everything's easy and life gets good. And that can be the case, but we have to know that it's never just a smooth sailing, uneventful thing. So first of all, when you retire, and we talk about this a lot, but you do have to retire to some purpose and to some life and to some goals and dreams. And with that, you need your finances to get you there. They need to drive the ship. They need to drive the car that takes you to all the dreams you've had and the plans you've had. With that, we have to know that there's a lot of curveballs, a lot of volatility and things that can change. Like you mentioned, healthcare costs can become very expensive. What if I live a long time, right? When people are like, that's not a problem. Well, financially, it can be. So we want to make sure that if I'm here, so is my money. And then what I've earned, how do I make sure as much of that as possible goes to my kids and not the government or taxes or probate court?
Yeah.
All these things matter. The one that's top of mind for the most people right now, though, is market volatility. When the markets tank, when we have a tariff war, when we have tech stocks being way overpriced and crashing the market like in 2022, when COVID crash happens or the financial crisis happen, how do I make sure that these things that I have no control over don't derail my life and don't change the way we live? And that is what a good retirement plan does. It takes the what ifs and it solves for them before they hit. It sees things coming. It sees storms brewing ahead and says, here's how we pivot in advance. Here's how we build safeguards to make sure we're protected. There are things you can do in advance to say that when storms come, that I am protected. And I think that's kind of what Johnny's talking about, is the fact that there are these things you just don't see coming. There's people trying to get at you. There's things, a lot of rocky times that he lived through. And if he had gone, I bet if he said that if I could go back in time, I would have given myself some advice, maybe, right? So I think preparation and understanding of what could come is really, really important. Do you remember that movie Twister from the 90s?
Yeah. Such a good movie.
One of my favorite movies.
Movie of a generation. Yeah.
Kimberly and I actually went back and rewatched it. I like 3-4 years ago, we went and rewatched it.
It's still good. It does. It's still good. And like even the special effects and everything, because a lot of 90s movies, you go back and watch, you're like, oh, it's cringe.
Independence Day doesn't really hold up on a lot of stuff. Like the explosions are kind of crappy, but Twister holds up. Even the cow flying across the screen, it still holds up. And then last year we watched the new one that came out, and we were so excited because we just love the original one. Now, the new one is set in Oklahoma. Kimberly was born in Oklahoma. She went to college in Oklahoma. She's been around tornadoes and Tornado Alley.
Kimberly is Mike's wife.
My wife, yep. And so she has lived through a lot of that stuff. In the new movie, something really bothered us. They're sitting at a rodeo, and as they're at this rodeo, just, looking into each other's eyes, gazing, loving each other, or starting to love each other, right? This girl who's this tornado whisperer is just sitting there and talking, and this leaf falls out of a tree, which I know to most of us is just whatever, but to her, it was a sign of something coming. And so she picks up a leaf, holds it, stares at it a little bit, then goes, oh no. And then she looks, and all of the sky's black, and an F5 tornado is coming through. And they had no clue it was coming, and had this leaf not fallen from a tree, who knows what could have happened. And then when they end up running, hiding in a pool that's conveniently there at this motel, like all these, it's super weird. And Kimberly said, you know what's crazy, Mike? In Oklahoma, we know stuff's coming way in advance. We have so many systems and so many things that we're prepared for. As a kid, where in your house, your church, your school, where you go when a tornado hits. We are prepared. And when these things happen, we're not like, holy cow, did you know there's a tornado coming today?
Well, cell phones are normally going off.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so she's like, this is just so crazy. I think that we'd be sitting at a rodeo and all of a sudden out of nowhere, one of the biggest tornadoes in the history of the country hits, and we were just completely caught by surprise. Right. And also, they're tornado chasers. They're professionals at predicting this stuff, and they just were caught completely off guard. There are systems in place to help people in those parts of the country survive through the storms and the chaos that they can actually see coming. Right? We know tornadoes are going to come through Oklahoma. That's part of their life. You live there, you got to play a game like that. in the financial world, we know there are certain things that are going to happen. Every 3 to 5 years, the portfolio is going to go through potentially a 20% reset. The market will lose 20% one time at least every 3 to 5 years typically. It will go through a 40% crash or reset every 7 or 8 years, up to 9 years. And so those things need to be built into your understanding of your portfolio.
Right.
These storms are coming, and they will keep happening year over year. Craig Rochelle, a leadership teacher and a pastor, he talks about when you're a leader of anything, every decade you should expect to go through a major catastrophe of some sort. So there are certain things in life we can prepare and understand that are coming. If the stock market is going to back me out 20% every 3 to 5 years and back me out 40% potentially every 7 to 9 years, how do I build my portfolio in a way that when these moments happen in the market that we know they're going to happen, we can see them coming, even if you don't know exactly when, you know that they are coming,
Okay.
that we're not caught completely off guard by it.
Right.
We have protocols in place. We have good systems, whether it's a market guard portfolio that de-risks, or we have tools in place, whether it's real estate or life insurance or annuities or dividends, something that says, even if the market resets, I get my paycheck every month and I still get to go golfing or live my life. Those are things we can do in advance. That way we're not just sitting at this retirement rodeo and a leaf falls down and we go, oh no, the market's dropping 40% and I don't know what to do, right? We can have plans in place that says, I know what's going to happen. The market goes up more times than it goes down, but when it goes down, we get really scared. And when you're 30 or 40, it's a great buying opportunity. But when I'm 60 or 70 and I'm pulling out of my retirement accounts and the market starts tanking, how do I live life? One of the great things, the article we talked about, I think last week or so, we were covering this, but it was the fact that you have to be mentally prepared for the fact that your accounts are going to go down in your life. And that's just a weird mental place to be. And understanding what these dangers or risks are out there, you don't have to be subject to them. You have to live through them, right? So I don't have to let it change my life, but I do have to be here while it happens because it's going to happen. So I just think that one of the biggest frustrations people have is they have these portfolios that someone says, hey, you're going to average 6 to 8% per year over the years. And here's what your chart looks like on a graph when we draw it. It just goes up year after year. And you think, that's so great. I love that. And then a year happens where it drops 15 to 20%. And you go, you never told me there was going to be these days. But we know if you've invested in any length of time in the market, you know these days come. We have bad years. 2022, the market dropped 20%. The NASDAQ dropped 30%. 2020, the fastest 30% crash in history. It took 22 trading days to lose 33%. In 2018, 3 different 10% crashes in 1 year. It happens all the time. And yet every time we act like it's the first time. And that's just crazy. So a good retirement plan says, I know the storms are coming. I know that there will be something that comes. I know there's going to be something that tries to take my money away. Do I have systems in place that I'm not waiting for a leaf to fall to let me know, but I know days and weeks in advance that this storm is coming, and I've got safeguards. I know where to hide. I know where to protect. I know how I get paid. I know how much is acceptable loss in my portfolio, but at some point, something's going to intervene and help me out. I know that I have measures in place to keep me safe and keep me living. That's what a good retirement plan looks like, and that's what it should be. Not just you're going to average 6 to 8% and everything's going to be roses every single day.
MichigansRetirementCoach.com is our website and where to go to start the conversation with Mike and his team. We also have links posted in the show notes. You were talking about things that we know we should anticipate, market drops, health issues. But I think that in the specific moments, in the individual moments, it very much can feel like for a lot of people, it's completely unexpected. I mean, yes, we talk about the crash of 2020, but nobody could anticipate that it was going to come from a worldwide pandemic or what happened in 2008, that the housing market was going to fall apart. So we have to create a plan that also anticipates the unforeseen as well, right?
Well, we don't know what's going to cause the 40% crash, but it always happens. It's just some area of the market that gets out of balance.
Okay.
So we never know what it's going to be typically, right? Like January 1st of 2020, we didn't know that a worldwide pandemic was going to crash the market.
Right.
But what we did know was that every 7 to 9 years, we get a 40% crash. And at that point, it had been since 2008. So it had been 12 years since a major crash.
Okay.
And in 2014, people were calling for another crash. In 16, they were calling for a crash. In 17, they were calling for a crash. But we just didn't have a reason yet.
Okay.
But what's interesting is there's people like Harry Dent and all these other guys who say every year there's going to be a major crash this year. And then the one time it hits every 7 to 10 years, they go, see, I told you. And they sell a bunch of books.
Right.
And then, and it's really, really profitable for them. And then 3 years later, they say, hey, I think there's going to be a crash this year. And people are like, you're wrong. So I just think we have to be aware that there is always a crash. Again, 2001, 2, and 3, the tech bubble burst. 2007, 8, and 9, the financial crisis. Then we went on a 10-year run where there was no major losses. There was a little pullbacks, and there's like a bad month in August of 2015. The market lost 9%, recovered it by the end of the year.
Okay.
And we have the Greece financial crisis when Greece, their banks froze up, and Brexit happened, and the market dropped 5% in 3 days. It came back in a week.
Right.
So we have these quick hiccups, but they recover back quickly. And we don't remember those days as long as I make my money back quickly.
Yeah.
The reality is they happen all the time. We just have, it's almost like, we've talked about this before, but when Kimberly gave birth to our kids, she always reminds me, there's these hormones that help you forget the toughness of it. And it reminds you of the reward of it. That there's a lot of that financial principle. When you lose, but you quickly recover and gain, and you get a benefit on the back end.
Yep.
You're less reminded, versus if you lived in Lansing in 2008 and the market crashed and GM pulled out, and all of a sudden you lost your hardware store, you lost your restaurant, and it was shut down and you didn't open up. In 2020, during the COVID crash, when all the restaurants were shut down and you lost your family restaurant of 20 years because you couldn't reopen in time, you are going to remember that way more than someone who lost 30% in the portfolio and recovered it by the end of the year. So the amount of loss matters, and we can't control some of those things, but we can say, if the market drops 30%, what measurements, what buffers do I have? What guardrails do I have in place that says, all right, well, you're not going to lose 30. At 15 to 20, we're going to start pulling you out and protecting you. That's why we use Market Guard. Not everybody does. Not everybody believes that you should have some protective measures. And if you're 30 or 40 years old, I don't think you should have protective measures. I think it's the opposite. The market tanks, you buy more. But if you're retired or looking at retirement, you should have some measurement of risk protection models in your portfolio. We use Market Guard. It's a systematic, non-emotional, methodical way of protecting money in bad markets and participating in good markets. Something needs to help you out on the back end. So while you're out golfing, or you're at a rodeo, or you're doing whatever you want to do in retirement,
and that one leaf falls.
You go, I've already got something. I knew this was going to fall. I'm not
leaf
shocked
was
by
fall.
it. You don't go, what's coming next?
Oh no.
You
Here
just
comes the
keep on
keeping
counting
on.
8 seconds and whatever people do at rodeos. But I think that's just the way we want to live life. And when you're retired, it shouldn't be about looking for rain and predicting storms and looking for that stuff. It should be about doing the right things, knowing that there's plans in place to protect you if they do happen, or when they happen, not if.
Right. That's right. When they happen, because life is full of surprises, bad and good. So we want to be leaning into the good and planning for the bad. That's the idea of having the kind of plan that Mike and his team can help you create at LifePlan Financial Design. Michigan's Retirement Coach is our website, and where you can start the conversation with Mike and his team about your retirement plan. You need to know that you are prepared for the unexpected or the expected, whatever may come your way, knowing that you've got a plan in place so that you don't have to change your entire life trajectory when you're in retirement. This is the time when you should not be having to worry about those things. So let's get to work building a plan that's customized to you and your goals. Again, it's michigansretirementcoach.com, or just click on the links we've got posted in the show notes.